Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here with Coaching for Relevant. Randy Swaim joining us here. He says, what? No person is an island. Yes, you are right. He's
That's
helping people
true.
soar really above everything. And with his aviation background, even
Yeah,
more
yeah.
so. But he's helping clients all over the world really achieve, their best self and to really help them to whatever industry they're working in, not just in the aviation field, but every type of field out there. Marshall Goldsmith certified. He's been speaking all over the world. I know we have so much to talk about with more of your upcoming. I just saw on Facebook you were part of some roundtable recently. We got to talk about that. But let's start off by
Yeah.
saying hello and welcome back.
well, well, hello. And the roundtable was actually done a little while back, but I just shared it again.
Oh, good.
And so, but it was real good with some of the neuroplastician people and bringing those aspects to really developing and leading your teams in unpredictable, challenging times, and and just seeing that. And what I'll bring to the show here a little bit today is kind of one other aspect about that, leading your team when things aren't always academic kind of thing. So it's a key aspect of leadership with it. But yeah, it's been going. And in fact, my autobiography, you mentioned the story of soaring above and everything. And my autobiography looks like it's going to be published within just probably, I'm just guessing, within the next month or so.
You're kidding.
And
Finally. Oh my
yeah, and
goodness. Amazing.
and the title of it is Bringing Freedom to Potential. You can see it back up here and stuff, but the subtitle is A True Story of Overcoming and Soaring Above the Storms in Life. And how you really lead your team to be able to do that, how you do that within yourself, is just radically important.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thanks for being here. So excited. I was going to, of course, ask about the book, the update on the book. Great to know things are going well for you. And just a quick overview of all the work you do. I mean, it's a lot, but for someone out there who's interested in your work, tell us a little bit about the teamwork, the coaching you do. And then I want to also, there's some great testimonials on the site too. I would love to share.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Well, I will say this, that with coaching, this title up here of Bring Freedom to Potential, I mean, that's what I'm important with. As I told people on a number of occasions, and I think I've shared this with you one time, that when you look at my life, 20 years after I take my last breath, it doesn't bother me if people don't remember my name, because this is not about me. But what I do hope is that 20 years after I take my last breath, hopefully down the road a little bit, kind of thing, but 20 years after that, what I hope is there's a whole group of people out there that don't remember my name, but they remember there was this one insight that this one guy brought, and I applied that to my life, and man, it's just been incredible. And that's what I hope my book does, and that's with all that I do with coaching people, with developing and mentoring jet pilot instructors, and also training and certifying jet pilots to be able to make decisions in situations that are not just road academic all the time, and to make those decisions such that people have their safety enhanced, and you can come in and land and everybody goes to the restaurant kind of thing, as opposed to something worse happening kind of thing. And so that aspect of aviation is a big area where I bring the neuroscience awareness, but also the coaching and development aspect of it, so people truly get connected in with their success and their value, without just going through road academic answers and doing what I tell them to do. So it's my passion. It's what I'm about. I mean, and it's what I'm be about for the rest of my life.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you here. And just I was reading before we started, you worked with someone recently, a senior executive, Gene Trousel. He's
Yeah, go ahead.
He's saying that I asked you to remain open-minded, that Randy is excellent at facilitating this coaching skills for performance program, and ask that you put all your preconceptions aside and keep an open mind. You will find much value, as we did. You
Mhm.
arrived Tuesday morning, very close-minded, but all in 30 minutes. My goodness, not because of what Randy told our executive team, but because of the questions he asked. And
Yeah.
this will be a very valuable 2 days for you, as it was for us. And these are just people speaking about your experience and how instrumental you've been in helping all these different companies grow and grow. And so I commend you on that, Jeff Went, as well. And for today, all right, where are we
Yeah.
starting? Are we talking the book? Are we talking coaching? Are we talking, how have you been the past few months?
Well, it's been busy. I'm glad to see you back here, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back here. So yeah, it's what I was going to kind of do too is just sort of bring one leadership insight that sometimes people don't think about in our world today, and all that, but it's really related to truly understanding a development, coaching,
Mm-hmm.
facilitative leadership style that you lead it in such a way that your people are magical even when you're not there to tell them what to do and all that. And those are just some of the aspects of it. And I'll, if you want, I'll just bring it out very quickly here as an intro. But these are some of the things that I'm all about. That helping people get a sense of what they didn't see. And
Mm-hmm.
boy, oh wow, wow, we can do that. Let's do that now.
Yep.
Wow. And all of a sudden magical things happen and people are applauding them, and that kind of thing. So, and what it is when you're talking about leading teams in a rapidly changing environment, you would be surprised at how many times, even in sometimes and it's not so much, just any particular place that I'm doing it, but you'd be surprised at how often I've heard people say that, when the situation didn't exactly go just right, um, or it didn't get them the results that they wanted or whatever. I've seen people that are instructors or trying to be leaders slash managers that go in there and say, well, you should have done this. You should have done this. You didn't do this. Da, 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 da. Or I've heard people come in with the excuse that says, well, that should have been like this. Well, it wasn't, kind
Yep.
of thing. And what I tell, the one simple thing that I'll bring here with this, and this is a coaching, you know, aspect, but it's also a true leadership aspect when you're talking about challenging situations or when you're talking about your team. And the thing about it is it actually came from a faith-based concept, but I'm not going to bring that to it. I'm going to bring just the leadership aspect of it, which is key. And it really talks about, when you look back on your journey, sometimes you look at things that didn't go exactly right, and you sort of point your fingers at them and you say, well, boy, that was bad for me. I didn't do that. That kind of thing. And you get sort of that frustration going and everything. And the question that I would sort of throw out to people is, and when you're talking about leaders that are wanting to lead their teams, some of the questions that they don't even think about are the real dramatic questions that can really bring their people to a higher level. And what I would say is when there's those kind of situations that happen, I would say, what was the value of that happening at that point in your journey, at that point in their journey? What was the value of it? And there's some questions about it that deal with this. What did you learn about it? How are you changed? How are you a little bit different from
Mhm.
experiencing that? And it's one thing to say, well, it should have been better. You didn't do it right. This is what you needed to do. And that's what a lot of narcissistic people today sort of have in mind. But it's not what true leaders do. And it's not what true successful people do. And in one sense, it's helping them get a sense of, okay, what was the value of that situation happening right there? What did you learn from what you saw in it, what you experienced in it? Going forward, what are some of the factors that you didn't see when they came on scene, kind of thing? And you ask those kind of questions and you get people kind of tossing that and really assessing that and looking at it. And then they say, oh, you know what? This would have been the right strategy. And you go, there you go.
Oh,
And I've had one or two people that I was their leader in one or two cases when they said something like that, and I just looked at them and I winked and nodded my head and smiled. And it's like, because you know what? When you get your team doing that, and the other artistic part of this is that's not something that happens right at the point of attack. You know, if you're just waiting for something to happen,
yeah.
you're not preparing your team. But if you have some of those conversations that in our environment here, what are the scary things that might come on scene some point? And what's going to be the value of it? What do we need to be aware of? What do we need to think differently about? What do we need to decide differently about, and why? And when we do that, well, we've had to adapt a little bit, asking, okay, well, once you adapt to get beyond that and to overcome that, what else may come on the scene that wouldn't have the other way? And there's just a lot of those kind of questions, and they're not just questions, they're not just academic questions, but they're conversations that a
Mm-hmm.
leader can have with his people.
Got it.
If your leadership is such that your people believe that we can have those conversations together, and you're not just going to go to academic things, well, you should have done this. Well, you know what? Get off of that mindset. If you have some of those things that you're getting their thinking and processing and envisioning going, and where they can come up with the strategy that needs to happen to really get radical success out of this, guess what? That's where miraculous things are going to happen. And it's way beyond all of that, but it brings sort of a coaching facilitative style to your leadership, where you're not just telling them what to do, but you're putting the people in a way where they actually develop beyond what you would ever expect.
So it's about
And
being proactive and, in a sense, kind of rehearsing,
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
practicing for the odds or the negative, the bad stuff that we all hope doesn't happen, but we need to be prepared. I feel like we're talking about a SWAT team coming in on an active shooting. Same
yeah,
concept there. Some have been prepared, some haven't. I think we learned that, but it's
yep,
true. You have to walk it and go through the steps in hopes, well, the chances of success are much greater of you succeeding if you've done this. That's how
yeah.
I'm relating this conversation right now. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because with my military background, retired from the Air Force and everything, in your military background, when you're talking about possibly having to go to war or whatever, guess what? Some of that is what you need to be thinking about from a leadership standpoint
Yep.
and leading your units. Are you having the kind of conversations that,
Yep.
given our situation and our current awareness, if I was the enemy, what would I do?
Mm.
And you give some thought to that. And if they start doing this, what would I see in them? And they start, so you can be aware of that. Now, if that happens, what am I going to do? If it doesn't happen, what are we going to do? And gain a little bit of that strategic picture in your mind of what needs to happen. And so when you're thinking about this aspect of a lot of things that that kind of happen, where maybe it didn't go just the way you wanted it to, right at that point. A lot of people kind of sit there and they point fingers at their people. Well, you should have done this, and everybody feels beat down, as opposed to, well, you know what? You're right. That was a challenging situation in the way it developed. So, what did you learn out of it?
Yeah.
How are you better? How are you better now than when you were when that first came on scene? How are you better ready for it? What
Hmm.
assumptions are you making? Versus how are you going to be aware when the next situation that maybe seems like that is not exactly like that? And what are you going to do about it? How are you going to be aware? And so that's an aspect when you're talking about leading teams in a challenging thing. It's not just telling them what to do. And you see that a lot in societies today, where people just want to tell you what to do and they want you to just shut your brain off and go with them. But that's not leadership. Leadership is really developing your people. And when you're talking about leading in a challenging unpredictable environment, are you really developing your people to be able to perform with radical results when the unexpected things may come on scene today? And so when you're talking about this aspect, looking back on the times where things were sort of struggles at some point, not just always talking about how bad that was and how we screwed it up, but it's what was the value out of that for us? What have we learned? What have we become because of our experience with that situation? What have we become? And how are we better? How are we more aware? How is our situational aware and our decision making better than it was? And so those are just a lot of aspects that when you're talking about leading a team or being a coach for an organization or a team or a group of people or whatever, guess what? That's kind of the insight that you got to bring to your people. And so how are you really developing your people? That's a key point that I was just going to bring in. But yeah, that relates to pilots, obviously, because guess what? Not everything that happens in an airplane is going to be easy to predict, kind of thing. But it's also about team leaders in an organization of any type. And are you really and truly building your team to the point where magical and radical results are going to be happening, even when challenges come in? And so it's just a key insight when you're talking about leading from that coaching perspective, but one that really grows the potential and the results in your people. And the other part of it too is, as you know, Jill, I'm sure that in any team anywhere, guess what? Everybody on your team is a little different. Everyone on your team is at a different, point in their growth and in their, journey of professional stuff and all of this. And guess what? Each one on there is probably going to have one little thing that they learn different. As a leader, are you helping each one of them, connect in as a team, but also learn how they grew, developed, and became in that situation? And in the future, do they have some clarity on how they're going to be more aware situationally and make great decisions because of how they're a little bit different and a little bit more improved, not just in a rote academic sense, but in a real processing with the frontal lobe of the brain up here, the real processing sense to take into account the factors and make the perfect right choices and decisions together for the team, for themselves, for your organization. And that's what is a key aspect of what you're talking about when you're talking about leading in organizational maneuverability concept and leading your teams in a way where you're really bringing leadership and not just, dictatorial management that's superficial. So it's just sort of interesting on that when you look at that in those kind of situations.
Well, thank you, Randy, for being here. We're talking about his coaching, his training, his workshops, his speaking engagements. He's here bringing freedom to potential. And let's remind everyone how we can contact you. By the way, I could tell you the website, coachingforrelevance.com. I know that like a book. What's the phone number and what's the the social media pages? Those I don't know by heart. It's probably the same.
Okay. It's my cell phone and as you know, and I've shared this before that there's that if somebody calls me, I mean, if they have a need, we'll talk about it, but I'm not going to give them sales pitches at the beginning of the call or whatever kind of thing. So they can call me, but it's the cell phone is 817-880-4749, and that's how they can get in touch with me. And I've got about 140 little videos. Quite a number of them are you and I on previous shows.
Yes,
kind of thing.
And your YouTube videos.
And my YouTube and everything. And so, it's just, and of course on social media, people can connect in with me and all that kind of stuff as well. So it's key. This is my passion to help people become extremely successful for
Mm-hmm.
themselves and for their teams in situations and environments that were unpredictable and nobody else would have, if all you're doing is just going to rote academic things that somebody said in a class, guess what? There are times when that won't be the most important thing. And are you aware of that? And can you really make that happen? That's one of my real passions for this. And so, yeah, it's real key on that. And I mean, that's really where my passion is. And I even bring that to youth and rising stars. I was actually over
I
at
was just going to mention that that's your the online course, right? And how does
it,
it work? Do people work
it
with you directly and do the course at the same time, or what's, yeah.
what it is, it's not an actual online course. We can do it that way. I know
Okay.
with a Trusted Advisors Network, which are the people that own it, but I'm one of their people, and so I have access to it. But it is an online course, and we can have a group of, you know, 8 or 10 or whatever, youth in that want to go through the Rising Stars process. And in fact, I'll share one thing I think I shared with you before, but this morning I went over, because about once a month I go over to Trinity High School here in this area, and they have a thing called Trinity Trojan Talk, and they have mentors, and I'm one of them that comes in, and generally you partner together with a teacher, and a chemistry teacher named Elaine and I have been connected with this for about the last 14 years, working together with different classes and stuff like that. And I go in and speak to her class and give some ideas and bring some value to it and all that kind of stuff. And so it's key on that. But and I'll just share this with you, even Rising Stars, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because even Rising Stars sometimes will give you an incredible question. And you know what? When you hear them give you an incredible question, there are times when the last thing you want to do is look at them and give them an answer.
Yeah.
I was teaching a small class of 5 youth in my with the Rising Stars and everything brochure. And this one day we were sitting there, and a friend of mine who is an attorney was the guy that connected me in with it. And I told him, I said, well, you sit in with me on this, and just so they're comfortable with who it is and all that sort of stuff. And so he did. And there was one 9-year-old girl. This one day we were talking about impact and legacy. And this one little girl, I think I shared this story with you, but for anybody that doesn't know it, she was sitting there, 9-year-old, and she goes like this, and she starts going like this on the table. And she goes, I have a question. And I looked at her and I said, okay, what question? And she goes like this.
Aww.
And she thought for a second. And then she looked up at me and listened to her question coming from a 9-year-old girl. She looked at me, she said, do you have to be alive to have impact? And I looked at my buddy, and his eyes were this big around as he looked back at me, and I kind of smiled at him. And I looked back at her. I said, sweetie, I just want you to know you have my compliments for that question. That's an incredible question. I'm proud of you. I looked at the other 4 and I said, so what do you think? And there was a 13-year-old girl in the class who had lost her younger brother, who I think was like 4 or 5 years younger than she was, but she lost him about 2.5 years ago because he passed away from something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And she talked to me, and I said, well, don't share anything that you don't want to share, but how does he impact your life today? And she talked about how she still thought about him and how the love that she has for him as she's moving forward and things like that. And she said, so that's how. And I looked at the other little girl and I said, so what's the answer to your question? And she was leaning forward still like this. And when I answered that question, she goes like this. She goes, no, you don't have to be. I went, good on all of you, kind of thing. But it's the Rising Stars. And one of the things that, as parents and as mentors and as coaches and as people, we need to think about is how we're really raising those new generations, not to just become rote academic things, but to truly understand processing and truth, and not just going with what we want them to think, but how are they really able to learn how to process the answers to their questions and open it up. So when you said rising stars, I just had to share that just very quickly. But again, it's bringing that coaching approach to a lot of this.
Got it. Well, we have 2 minutes left here today to talk more about what you're doing, and why. I know why. You have an innate passion and a burn and desire in your soul
That's true,
to
and
teach.
the other part of it is, I will say this, that from my background in aviation, both, military, most of my aviation experience was military related in two different ways. But I know what it's like to live your dream, and I know what it feels like in here when your dream makes an impact, not about you, but about the people that experience you, and things of that nature. And so that's a key aspect of it, and that is my passion. I've had people ask me when I'm going to retire, and I say when I take my last breath, because I'm going to run through the tape. I don't ever want to stop. I want to make a difference, and I want to keep making a difference right up until I take my last breath. 10 years, 20 years down the road, or whatever, next week, hopefully not, but that's what I'm going to do, because that's my passion. I want to make a difference for other people, not because they remember my name, but because my life had purpose. My life journey had a positive impact, and not that people call my name out, but there's something within them that's different. And that's what I look for.
Beautiful. Well, always a pleasure having you here, and we want to work with you. I know where to go. I know it's coachingforrelevance.com. Do you guys know where to go? Yeah. What's the phone number?
817-880-4749.
Beautiful. And how did you want to leave off? Any words of wisdom for our listeners today?
I would just say, wherever one of the things that I share with people is, when you think you've arrived, it's solid proof that you haven't. Wherever we all are, even myself right now, at this level that I'm at right now, whatever level we're at, what's it going to take for you to even take that up a notch, wherever you are? And what's that going to be, that you become something that, you would have never believed. And so give some thought to that. As soon as you think you've arrived, it's solid proof that we haven't. And that's true with me. That's true with everybody. And what's it going to take for you to really catch that vision and move forward?
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Randy. Always a pleasure seeing you. And hopefully we will catch up again soon. Thanks for being so awesome and motivated and helping us move forward and soar. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been an honor. We'll look forward to being with you again.
Hopefully soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye to all of our listeners. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.